Mavis is a diesel engine who works for the quarry company, shunting trucks and their sidings. She has 6 small wheels hidden by side plates just like Toby's. Mavis is young and full of her own ideas. She loves rearranging things too, and began putting Toby's trucks in different places every day. This made Toby cross.
Freight cars,
He grumbled,
should be where you want them, when you want them. Fiddlesticks!
said Mavis, and flounced away. At last, Toby lost patience.
I can't waste time playing hunt the cars with you. Take them yourself.
Mavis was pleased. Taking trucks made her feel important. Toby's line crosses with the main road behind the station and for a short way follows a farm lane. Frosty weather makes the muddy lane rock hard and very slippery. Toby stops before reaching the lane. His fireman halts the traffic at the crossing and then he sets off again. By using the heavy trucks to push him along, he has no trouble with the frosty rails in the lane. It is the only safe thing to do in this kind of weather. Toby warned Mavis and told her just what to do.
I can manage, thank you,
she replied.
I'm not an old fusspot like you.
The trucks were tired of being pushed around by Mavis. It's slippery, they whispered. Let's push her around instead. On, they yelled. Mavis took no notice. Instead, she brought the trucks carefully down the lane and stopped at the level crossing. All traffic halted.
One in the headlamp for fusspot Toby,
chortled Mavis. But Mavis had stopped in the wrong place. Instead of taking Toby's advice, she had given the trucks the chance they wanted. Hold back, they cried.
Grrr up!
Ordered Mavis. The trucks just laughed and her wheels spun helplessly. Workmen sanded the rails and tried to dig away the frozen mud, but it was no good. Everyone was impatient.
Grrr!
Wailed Mavis. Toby was in the yard when he heard the news.
I warned her.
He fumed. She's young yet, soothed his driver, and...
She can manage her cars herself,
interrupted Toby. They're your trucks, really, his driver replied. Mavis is supposed to stay at the quarry if the Fat Controller finds out.
Yes,
said Toby thoughtfully. He and his driver agreed that it would be best to help Mavis after all. An angry farmer was telling Mavis just what she could do with her train.
Having trouble, Mavis?
Chortled Toby.
I am surprised. Gosh,
said Mavis. With much puffing and wheel slip, Toby pushed Mavis and the trucks back. The hard work made his fire burn fiercely, and his firemen spread hot cinders to melt the frozen mud. At last they had finished.
Goodbye,
called Toby.
You'll manage now, I expect.
Mavis didn't answer. She took the trucks to the sheds and scuttled home to the quarry as quickly as she could. One day, Percy arrived at the quarry to collect some stone for his trucks. Snow and frost lay everywhere. There was not a sound to be heard. Percy ventured further. He found Mavis, the new diesel engine, resting in the shelter of some rocks.
Cheer up, Mavis,
he whistled. Mavis was still remembering the trouble she'd had with trucks.
Manager says I don't listen to advice. He says I've no business jauntering down Toby's line. Toby's a fusspot. Toby has forgotten more about freight cars than you will ever know,
replied Percy.
You must put the cars where he wants them. Then you'll be a really useful engine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to take these stones to the harbor.
Mavis liked Percy, but she still wouldn't listen to his advice.
Why shouldn't I go on Toby's line?
The siding arrangements were awkward. To put the trucks where Toby wanted them, Mavis had to make several journeys. She started making a plan.
If we used the teeniest bit of Toby's line, we would save all this bother.
Her driver, suspecting nothing, allowed them to go as far as the first level crossing. A few days later, the weather changed. As the snow melted, the quarry grew busy again. Some trains were so long that Mavis had to go beyond the level crossing. Now for her plan. She would go further down the line without it seeming her fault.
Can you keep a secret?
She asked the trucks. Yes, 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 they chattered.
Will you bump me at the level crossing and tell no one I asked you?
The trucks promised. But whilst Mavis was away, Toby arrived. He decided to shunt the trucks himself. The trucks decided to bump him anyway. They reached the level crossing and Toby's brakes came on. This was the signal for the trucks. On, on, they yelled. Toby was away with the trucks screaming and yelling behind him. No one realized that melted snow had turned a stream into a torrent and the bridge above it was about to collapse. The rails were now like a tightrope across the thundering water.
Stop! Stop!
Cried Toby. His driver fought for control. They came nearer and nearer to the bridge. The driver braked hard. Toby stopped, still on the rails, but with his wheels treading the tightrope over the abyss. Mavis was horrified and quickly came to the rescue. Workmen anchored Toby with chains while she pulled the trucks away. Then she helped Toby to safety.
I'm sorry about the cars,
said Mavis.
I can't think how you managed to stop them in time. Oh, well,
said Toby.
My driver told me about circus people who walk tightropes, but I just didn't fancy doing it myself.
Later, the Fat Controller arrived.
A very smart piece of work,
he said.
Mavis, you did well too, I hear. It was my fault about those cars, sir.
She faltered.
But if I could what? Come down the line sometimes, sir? Toby says he'll show me what to do. Certainly,
replied the Fat Controller.
If your manager agrees.
And so it was arranged. Now Mavis is as happy as can be, and the Fat Controller thinks she's really useful indeed.